I'm Brent Buice, the Georgia and South Carolina coordinator. You can see my contact info there. I'm on Twitter at Greenway_Brent, posting news, resources, and updates about the East Coast Greenway in general, but also certainly about my region. So speaking of, let's move into Georgia, where I'm based. Now, Georgia is unfortunately in last place in terms of Greenway development. There are historical and geographic reasons for that, but I'm happy to say that thanks to the Alliance's ability and capacity to invest in having full-time staff in Georgia since 2017, some great things have happened. The trails that we have are really nice, but they're short and they're kind of few and far between. We've got a little bit in Savannah, a little bit in Brunswick, a little bit in Darien, the Highlander Trail you can see indicated there. South of Brunswick, we've got the really beautiful but not very long Woodbine Trail, and then down in St. Mary's at the border with Florida, some other great projects coming together. But as you can see by the dotted line on that map, there is a lot of the route that's still on road for now. I'm happy to share, though, that this inset with the yellow 2020 is the cover for the brand new, newly adopted and endorsed regional plan for coastal Georgia, put together by our colleagues at the Coastal Regional Commission. In some places, you might call those COGS. In Georgia, they're called regional commissions. In charge of economic development, aging, and transportation planning for multi-county areas. And thanks to the relationship that we have been able to build, both volunteers and I as staff, with the Coastal Regional Commission over the past few years, we convinced them to, number one, update their very long overdue and much needed to be updated regional plan about biking and walking that was from 1999 and didn't have a lot of information about the East Coast Greenway. So we were able to convince them to update that plan. And thanks to the great relationship and trust that we have built with the Regional Commission and their staff, they essentially let us write the chapter about the East Coast Greenway. And so as a result, this new plan that's formally endorsing the East Coast Greenway, it showcases the envisioned route, which the previous plan did not do, and as importantly, talks about what our design requirements are, that we really need in all ages, abilities, and backgrounds, traffic separated multi-use path, or greenway or rail trail, as the case may be, traveling from the iconic city of Savannah all the way down through Brunswick to St. Mary's. So that's really excited. And we're only at 15% complete right now, but this plan is really going to set up all these communities to be hyper competitive for new programs like the Outdoor Stewardship Program in Georgia, as well as many federal funding programs for trails. So let's move to South Carolina. South Carolina's further along thanks to some great partnerships that the Alliance has had, particularly with the cities. Myrtle Beach, which is famous in Greenway circles as the first city to complete 100% of their section of the East Coast Greenway. But also Charleston, an iconic coastal city, so charming, so beautiful. There's a barrier protected path on the suspension bridge, the Ravenel Bridge that connects Mount Pleasant with Charleston. And then just above the letter C in the word Charleston on the map, you can see a nice long line. That's the West Ashley Greenway, which is a really beautiful asphalt rail trail that was developed a few years ago and is really an iconic piece of the East Coast Greenway. Moving further south, the very charming city of Beaufort at the waterfront, founded in the 16th century by the Spanish. It is really a lovely place that you should visit if you can. And the section of the trail there is called the Spanish Moss Trail. It was developed by the Path Foundation, a nonprofit based in Atlanta that really does just chef's kiss, platinum level types of facilities throughout Georgia and in other parts of the Southeast. And I encourage you to Google Spanish Moss Trail to see some of the images of just one of the best built trails in the entire Southeast. So we're so excited about things that are coming online, coming on deck in these states, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about those coming up next here. So we do have some segments that were designated, not in 2020. Topographically and geographically, this part of the country is known as the Low Country. We are also culturally the Slow Country. We like to joke, people talk a little slower, people cook and eat a little slower, and that translates into trail development too. So while some of our bigger East Coast cities might get trails on the ground really quickly, it takes a little longer in the Slow Country, but we have had some great things happen as recently as 2019. The picture here is from Surfside Beach, South Carolina, just south of Myrtle Beach. This great multi-use path in this beachside tourist destination community. This is obviously something wonderful for families who are showing up with their beach cruisers, who want to get around, maybe go to a restaurant, ride down to the beach from their hotel or their Airbnb. And certainly for local residents who might need a trail to safely get to and from work and other destinations, you can see the happiness on the face of the local leaders. It's been truly outstanding, and they're looking forward to expanding on that soon. Further south in Gardens Corner, which is a very rural area in part of South Carolina, really low population density, not a lot of development, but there's a lovely side path that the South Carolina DOT put along US Highway 17. We need a lot more of that kind of side path, and we are working consistently and regularly with South Carolina DOT leaders to make sure that sections of the Greenway are put in their long-term plans and in their short-term work plans anytime that they're widening or resurfacing roads. We want to make sure that we take advantage of those opportunities to get the travel route and the permanent route improved with these kind of side paths. Moving down to Georgia, I like to brag on St. Mary's, which is it's the southeasternmost community, small, charming waterfront town. It's the launching off point for Cumberland Island National Seashore. And they are also so excited to be a part of the East Coast Greenway that they try, despite their very limited financial capacity as a small rural community, they do everything they can to innovate and create trail where it doesn't exist. For instance, they had some sidewalk that they had already built through a residential area. They owned all the right-of-way. They put another 5 feet of concrete next to the existing 5 feet of concrete, turning what was a sidewalk into a multi-use path where people could bike side by side, walk past each other comfortably, that meets our design standards, and was able to save them a lot of money while also creating a new section of the East Coast Greenway. So speaking of St. Mary's, one of the most exciting things coming up in the near future is new ferry service between Georgia and Florida. We are so thrilled to finally announce this. Once we've got a date for launch, we really hope that this bicycle and pedestrian only ferry would take off this past spring. But of course, COVID-19 was a big monkey wrench in so many plans, including those for the Greenway. But I'm happy to say that there's tremendous enthusiasm for this ferry service. Both the cities of St. Mary's and Fernandina Beach, Florida, have committed local funds to get this off the ground. That's St. Mary's there to the left, their waterfront, and in the distance, kind of center right, is Cumberland Island National Seashore. So when you're on this ferry, you can roll your bike right onto it from the waterfront of either town. It's about an hour-long ferry trip, and you'll see bottlenose dolphins right off of the ferry. You'll see feral wild horses on Cumberland Island running around the sand dunes. It's magical, and we are fingers crossed that this will finally launch in spring of 2021, and can't wait to share that new and exciting connection between these states. So before I turn it over to my colleague V, I'm going to tell you a little bit about South Carolina. One thing that we have been celebrating for a while now is the Ashley River Bridge in Charleston. I mentioned earlier the suspension bridge between Charleston and Mount Pleasant. Well, on the other side of the Charleston Peninsula is the Ashley River, currently an extremely dangerous gap for people walking and biking. We partnered at the grassroots and grass tops level with our colleagues and counterparts. Pictured here is Keith Benjamin, the Director of Transportation for the City of Charleston, with our Deputy Director, Niles Barnes. And we helped them and local advocacy groups develop over 220 letters of support for a federal grant application. They weren't successful the first time, but eventually they were. And in 2019, the city of Charleston was awarded over $18 million to build a standalone bicycle and pedestrian bridge Thanks to the advocacy of our local partners at Charleston Moves, Mr. Benjamin's strong leadership in Charleston, and then our staff being able to meet with USDOT officials in Washington, D.C., we got this tremendous win for connectivity, for equity, for access, and most importantly, for the safe travel of people on foot and on bikes. It's about 40% designed right now, and we cannot wait to do the ribbon cutting on this transformative bridge project in Charleston.